Turn two, I just lost the rear. To go early onto the hard compound. Hindsight after the race, bit of a shame.
Listen, guys, hold on, because this weekend in Miami had everything. A 360-degree spin on lap 1, a tire strategy that backfired, a post-race penalty, and somehow Max still finished P5. But here's the thing that nobody's really talking about. Red Bull finally fixed the car, yet Max is still saying he's not finding joy in this sport. So today, we are breaking down everything: the chaos, the comeback, the crisis, and the one clause that has the entire F1 world on edge. Stay with me because this gets really interesting. Let's break it down, but before, if you want more updates and news on Max, then hit that like button and subscribe for more breakdowns. The 360-degree spin, the moment everyone lost their mind. So, let's start from the very beginning of the Miami race, because honestly, the opening lap alone was enough to make a full video. Max starts from P2, right next to Antonelli on the front row. Everything looks good. Then, going into turn 2, the rear just snaps. Max loses the back end completely, and at that moment, everyone watching thought it was over. Wall damage, race ruined, points gone. But instead of crashing, Max literally floored it and completed a 360-degree spin, keeping the car away from the wall and rejoining the race. He said it himself: "I thought I was going to crash, so I floored it and ended up doing a 360. So if F1 doesn't work out, I can always go rallying." Even Martin Brundle called it absolutely genius, the skill of managing to find forward momentum mid-spin without getting collected by the entire pack behind him. That one moment honestly tells you everything about Max Verstappen as a racing driver. From last to leader. Now after that spin, Max dropped all the way back to 9th place, which on paper sounds terrible, but what happened next was pure Max. He started carving through the midfield, aggressively battling Lawson, fighting past Hamilton, picking off cars one by one. Then Red Bull called him in on lap 7 under the safety car for an early switch to hard tires. And this is where things got really interesting, because while everyone else was still on fresher rubber further back in the race, Max cycled all the way to the front and actually led the Grand Prix by lap 29. From a 360 spin on lap 1 to leading the race by lap 29, that is the kind of story that reminds you why this man has 4 world championships. The tire strategy that hurt. But here is where it gets painful, and Max himself admitted it after the race. That early hard tire stop, which gave him the lead, also became his biggest problem. The hard compound simply did not work well enough for Red Bull in Miami, and the stint ended up running way too long. Antonelli came past, then Norris, then Piastri, then Russell, all closed him down on fresher tires. Max was honest about it, saying, "It was just too difficult to keep the tires alive. I think that stint was just a bit too long." The strategy that briefly made him the race leader is also the exact reason he could not fight for a podium. That is the painful reality of where Red Bull still stands. Even on their best weekend of 2026, the strategy cost them. The penalty drama, but Leclerc saved him. And just when you thought the drama was over, the stewards came in after the race with a 5-second penalty for Max for his front left tire crossing the white pit exit line during that early safety car stop. Now, a 5-second penalty normally means dropping a position, which would have pushed Max from P5 to P6. But here is the twist. Charles Leclerc, who had originally finished 6th, received a 20-second penalty for repeatedly leaving the track and gaining an advantage following his last lap spin. So Leclerc drops behind Max and the P5 stays. 2 penalties, 1 race, and somehow Max ends up keeping his position. You genuinely could not write this stuff. The car is finally fixed. Now let's talk about the real reason Miami felt different for Red Bull. Because this was not just a normal race weekend. This was the moment Red Bull arrived with a massive upgrade package after 5 weeks of work during the break. New side pods, revised floor, their own version of the Macarena wing. But the most important fix was something Max had been complaining about since the very first lap of preseason testing in Barcelona. The steering system was completely wrong. Red Bull finally replaced the entire steering rack and all supporting components, and Max felt the difference immediately. He said, Before, nothing really worked. I felt like a total passenger. It could understeer, it could snap on me, it could feel different from one session to the other without touching anything. Now I can finally drive how I want to drive. That one fix combined with the upgrades closed the gap to the front by roughly 1 second compared to Japan. And that is why Max qualified second in Miami, when just one race earlier he could not even reach Q3 at Suzuka. The joy problem and the rules crisis. But here is the part that should worry every Orange Army member, because even after all that progress, Max is still not happy. The FIA brought regulation tweaks to Miami to address the super clipping and lift and coast problems that have been making these 2026 cars miserable to drive. And Max's response? He said it is not what they want and called it a very small step. Lando Norris said, "We want more." Fernando Alonso said, "Nothing will actually change." And Lance Stroll said the rules are just destroying the racing. The core problem is that these regulations are locked in until 2030, and no amount of small tweaks will fix something that is fundamentally broken. Max had warned about exactly this back in 2023. Nobody listened, and now the whole grid is paying the price. The exit clause. And this brings us to the biggest story underneath all of this, the exit clause. Max's contract runs until 2028, but buried inside it is a performance clause that says if he is not inside the top 2 by the summer break, he can legally walk away for free. Right now, he sits P7 with 26 points, while Antonelli is on 100. The door is wide open. Mercedes has the money, the car, and the desire. But here's what Orange Army needs to hear. According to The Telegraph, which is closest to the Verstappen camp, Max has already decided he wants to stay. He waited, Red Bull listened, they fixed it, the loyalty is real. What happens next? So, let's bring it all together. One Sunday in Miami gave us a 360 spin, a race lead, a penalty, and Red Bull's best result of 2026. The car is getting better, the loyalty is still there, but the joy is still missing. My opinion is simple. If Red Bull keeps building on Miami through the summer, that exit clause becomes completely irrelevant. Max staying was never about the contract, it was always about the car. Now tell me, can Red Bull close the gap before the summer break, or is this just one good weekend before the doubts return? Drop your answer in the comments, Orange Army.